So the body is glued. I took off the clamps. Sorry I didn't dictate over the video. I wanted to kind of get it all clamped up, and I figured it was just as easy to tell you the process afterwards. So what we did was the same thing that we did when we put the fingerboard on to the body of the neck, which is we used brad nails to nail in, and we chopped them down just to get below the thickness of the top plate, and then applied pressure. I was using a mallet to do that, and that creates marks so that when you're gluing it, it doesn't slide around and it stays in the spot that you want it to. So I did that on both pieces, and with this I didn't have to mark a center line on the main body part to line up with the middle, because it's all going to be relative to the center line that I make it. In other words, this joint part is going to be the new center line that we're going to use everything off of, because you want the seam, because it's not going to be completely visible, but you want that seam to be running along the midline of the body. So I just lined it up the best I could with the grain, and I used glue. I ran out of some of the other bottles. You saw me kind of use different kinds, but just any type of a wood glue works, and you just want to make sure you spread it over the whole of the area. You don't want any missing parts. And I used my radiusing gauges upside down, and I clamped both sides to apply even pressure throughout it, and it turned out pretty good. It looks a little dirty and kind of messed up right now, but this is kind of where we got it. So I've got some rough body outlines here from the template, and the customer looked at the pattern and he kind of wanted it oriented like this. So this is kind of the way we're going to go with it. I drew a couple lines this way just to kind of see how the pattern was going to look, keeping in mind that the pick guard is going to take up a good amount of the space. So for instance, if the customer liked this grain pattern, then if we had the pick guard here, it's not going to show a lot of that because it's covered up. So this is the orientation that the customer wanted, and I would tend to agree. I mean, this is kind of a nice pattern up here, but it also would be covered up mainly by the bridge and everything else. So I like this orientation, having the bottom end here and the neck end up here. So what we're going to do next, we don't have to run a center line because we already have the center line from the join. So for right now we don't have to do that, but what we do need to do is we need to get the main body outline traced and get a rough cut from the bandsaw on this. So I'm going to do that real quick, and then we'll come right back. So this is a very rough cut. When we say rough cut, this is as close to it as you get. All you're trying to accomplish on the rough cut, especially on the body where you're going to be doing a lot of shaping and smoothing over, all you want to do is get within an eighth. I mean, a 16th is pretty close, but you want to get within about maybe an eighth of the outline, because what you're going to do is you're going to form route it. You're going to take that bearing bit that I showed earlier, and you're going to use it against the template so that the bearing follows the template and cuts on here. The reason you want to get as close as you can without digging right into the line, the closer you get, the easier that router is going to be to handle, whether it's on the router table or using the plunge router, the handheld. If you get too close, by the time that you're actually shaping, you may find saw cut marks that are right down to the edge, and then you have to take it in even further to clear those out. And there is a trick that you can use with a soldering iron and a wet cloth. If you have something that dinged, or a hammer that maybe dropped on your work and it dented it in, a dent can be raised out by applying water or a wet cloth, put it over the dent, and then press your heat source or your soldering iron on it. And what happens is the water soaks into the wood, and the heat makes it swell, so it swells back to surface and you sand it smooth. That's how you fix a lot of the dents on dent repairs. But when it's a cut, when that wood has been completely removed, it does not work the same way. You can't swell that wood out. So don't get too close, but you get close enough that it makes it easier for your routing. So I'm going to go ahead and route this out. I don't know yet whether I want to go to the router table. It's a pretty thick piece, and that's a lot of changing out of bits. So I may just use my plunge router to get this smooth. One last note before I cut into the next video. When you're doing your routing on your body, you want to stop, I would say, at the top of the horn and at the top of the peak on a Telecaster body here. When you get into this section on the routing, you can come in this way, but I would leave everything in this area out. Don't take that, because it's going to start to chip a lot of wood, and it gets really unstable around here, especially on a router table. It's going to just make that thing fly. So stop right in this area. To be safe, you can stop up here and do the rest by hand with filing and sanding. So we'll hop on the next video. are done routing the body. And now what we can do, before we round over the edges, because we will want to do that, we want to go ahead and take out the remaining sections here and get the basic outline of this done. You want to do this by hand, like I said, because it's a pretty fragile area and you want to make sure that that it doesn't mess anything up. We're pretty much past the part in the build where if anything could go wrong, it would go wrong. Using the power tools is the biggest thing, and getting the neck radius, and we've pretty much gone all past that area. We're going to use the plunge router to route the pickup channels and electronic channels, but by that point, if the lines aren't exactly right, or you happen to kind of offset the router on the template, then it's not a huge deal because the pick guard does cover that. You obviously don't want to do that. You want to be proud of your work and be precise with it. But for the most part, this is the point where it really starts to take shape like a guitar. So what we're going to do is get the files out, and we're going to start to kind of round over these edges and get this shaped up, and then we'll go from there.